Thanks for that insightful session, Mr. Masera and Mr. Khan. Now, our next speaker, Anand, is someone who I've been personally looking forward to hearing all day long. And she's extremely articulate, extremely fiery. Any journalist who's interviewed her will tell you that...
I'm one of them.
Okay. Don't give hints. She's as good as she gets. And she's one of the youngest ministers of the Modi cabinet, but by no means is that any measure of her impact and of her influence.
Absolutely, and she's just coming in after firing a few more political bazookas at the opposition, aren't you, Smriti ji? Good evening, welcome, good to have you here. Now, need we build up the suspense anymore? You've all seen her walking in, ladies and gentlemen, the Union Minister of Textiles and Information and Broadcasting.
But Anand, the only time she gives you a glimpse of her life as a woman, wife and mother is if you follow her on her Instagram account.
Well, that I haven't started doing yet. I'm not yet on Instagram. A little technologically challenged, perhaps. But we will do that soon. Smriti Zubin Irani, please welcome to the India Economic Conclave 2018 onto the dais. I'm also going to ask Ms. Nainalal Kidwai to also join Navika Kumar on the stage. And ladies and gentlemen, the next session is going to bridge two very important topics. And I'm going to ask Navika to do that as the ladies will talk. One is about unlocking the demographic dividend of India, and the other is bridging the gender deficit. So, ladies, it's all yours. Please take it away.
Well, when you have Ms. Smriti Irani with you, you can expect bazookas to fly all over. She's just done that. Anand just said that. And Smriti Irani never pulls her punches. That's what she's known for. And at times now we appreciate that, because we say when you get somebody like Smriti Irani, you should get at least 10 headlines out of her. So that's the objective with which we start this session. And Smriti Irani, everybody today is talking about this new rejuvenated politician that you so love to take on, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. He's somebody who's virtually reinvented himself. He's sharper on Twitter. He is taking on...
How do you know it's him?
So bazooka number one. Okay.
But seriously, how many of you actually can say here, hand on your heart, that it's really him? Because what's happening is a bit witty, and unless the youngest old man has learned something about wit and humor, nobody here can be, actually nobody's raised that hand here. Nobody believes it's actually him.
But Ms. Irani, you're in government, you've been there for 4 years. Some would say that there is a sense of having a chip on your shoulder when you look at Rahul Gandhi. Maybe there is, on the grassroots level, a building feeling that let's give this guy a chance. How do you respond to that feeling that's growing somewhere in the social media where the Congress is getting more traction?
Well, for a gentleman who has increased his popularity on the basis of bots, that too from Uzbekistan and Russia, I'm sure he'll do well when he goes to those countries. But insofar as his own Lok Sabha constituency, one must here understand that you want to give him a chance, but not his own constituents. Because for the first time in the past 3.5 years, all the local body elections have been lost by Rahul Gandhi in his own constituency. All assembly seats have been lost by Rahul Gandhi in his own Lok Sabha constituency. That means the people that he has been serving for over a decade know that this is a gentleman who does not deliver on promises of governance, on promises of progress, on promises of prosperity. So when his own people have certified that this is not acceptable to us as a leader, how do you presume that I have a chip on my shoulder? Yes, there are many in his coterie of supporters who say, well, I must be a sourpuss because I lost 2014. But I can proudly say, as a working mother of two, I am a self-made woman. मेरा बाप कौन है वो मेरी पहचान नहीं है। आपने मुझे आज यहाँ पर वक्ता के रूप में बोला, मैं पहली बार पॉलिटिकल बैटलफील्ड में वक्ता के रूप में टाइम्स नाउ में ही पहली बार आई थी। और अगर
Absolutely.
डिस्कवर किया था मीडिया में मुझे किसी ने, तो वो वहां पे बैठे हैं सज्जन जिनका नाम है विनीत जैन। अब सोचिए, तब तो मेरे बहुत किलो कम थे, लेकिन और बजूका छोड़ती नहीं थी, मतलब अब तो दिखती हूँ टैंक की तरह, लेकिन I came from nowhere. And in 20 years, I can proudly say as a professional, I have made a mark for myself in the media business. As a politician, I have worked from the grassroots up. And even after becoming a minister in 2014, I made a promise to the people of Amethi. I will not leave your side. And after losing, possibly, I'm one of the first politicians to go back to that constituency, tell the people, don't lose faith in a thing called democracy. Not every leader walks away from you.
So
I didn't.
2019, Smriti Irani takes on Rahul Gandhi again.
Well, the question is whether he will fight Amethi.
Oh, so Smriti Irani is not running away from Amethi, but you think Rahul Gandhi will?
I don't know, time will tell. But all I know is that when you lose the local body election, when you lose the assembly election, that is your electorate telling you, वापस मत आना.
Okay. Are you challenging Rahul Gandhi to a debate or an election contest?
Well, a guy who has somebody else handle his Twitter handle, will he debate me?
But are you throwing out a challenge to him?
Well, I need to throw out a challenge to an equal. He's no. And he's the party president. I'm not. I am just some working mother of two. Just a nobody.
Okay, okay. So today let me
But
ask.
I'm sure you would love to cover it if he ever decides to have a conversation.
Oh, I would. In fact, want
After
to
all,
give
the
him-
last time he was on Times Now, he gave a prolific interview about empowering women.
Well, we would from this stage itself, from this platform itself, give him an invitation that here is Smriti Irani inviting him
And I will
for an
guarantee
open
you-
debate. And this is the platform
And
where
I will
he's
guarantee
most
you he
welcome.
will not take your invitation. That much I can guarantee you. And everybody here is nodding their head. Mm-mm.
Okay, Smriti Irani, I want to ask you about the latest controversy, or rather the latest issue that both the BJP and the Congress have been involved in. Let's look at the numbers first. We are all talking about the 2019 elections, and in 2009, the Congress got 11 crore votes. In 2014, the BJP got 17.2 crore votes of Indians. Why is this important? This is important because in July 2017, there were 24 crore users of Facebook. Now, these 24 crore users of Facebook, 70% of whom are below the age of 25, could actually influence voters. Is that why there is this battle about who's influencing all these data users? And you've actually called Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party a data chore by using Cambridge.
That's your hashtag. I thought I said something about Chota Bheem.
So you're watching
But-
Times now because you're very familiar with our hashtags.
Of
So
course.
Cambridge
I am, after all,
Analytica-
the information and broadcasting minister. Wouldn't it tell badly on me if I didn't know what you were doing?
So
But let me say this. When we look at the aspects of news relating to Cambridge Analytica, many people say this is just an urban phenomena or an urban debate. Let's look at it deeper. One of the charges and one of the conversations that I saw on your channel was about using a caste-based census and then arriving upon a strategy. Now, if somebody reads the Indian Penal Code, you will find that sections like 295 talk about punishing those people who try to create conflict between different communities, classes, and castes of people through any action deliberately. So here is a political party that is so desperate to retain power that it will analyze the castes of every voter and then engineer a communicative strategy so that it either instills fear or it instigates you to vote for a particular person because they belong to a particular community, or vote for a political party because they would stand for something that that particular human being perceives to be justified because they belong to a particular community or a caste. So this is not just a data chore issue. This is a deeper malaise. This is a deeper challenge. That somewhere in the psyche of the Congress party is a belief that we divided this country on the basis of caste decades ago. Now let's use technology to divide them again.
But surely, Ms. Irani, you don't take this country to be naive. It's the BJP doesn't the BJP look at candidates selection based on caste? Doesn't the BJP look at caste leaders?
I think that
let me complete my question.
let me, why I'm intervening here is for this particular reason, that this is not about selection of candidates. This is about a communication strategy. A communication strategy that is built to influence you as an individual and your mindset. And that mindset is not retained or restricted to only that one vote. Then it becomes a part of your everyday life. It becomes a part of your everyday communication or interaction with others in your community. That is where the danger lies.
But for example, there are elections in Karnataka now. Your choice of the chief ministerial candidate, Mr. Yediyurappa, is a prominent Lingayat leader. Now,
Navika, you're seated with, you are seated with a girl or a woman called Smriti Irani. Okay, I'm married to a Parsi, which is a micro minority. How many votes possibly can Parsis have? But I'm still here serving in this office, not by the virtue of my surname or the caste that I belong to. So to look at this particular candidature from the lens of caste, I think would be a huge anomaly and a huge disservice to the work done by many people in the organization. The basic issue is that when there is an absolute silence in terms of policy and law about digital broadcasting, about digital news, how do you then have a proactive policy which upholds the right to free speech, but at the same time doesn't give anybody the right to instigate a riot? That is where the balance has to be found.
But the Congress party, while you talk about the Congress's linkage with Cambridge Analytica, the Congress party has alleged that the Namo app itself has a lot of data breach issues itself. It asks questions on 23 fields. It gives data to a third party, and the disclaimer comes up on the Namo app website only after this controversy comes up.
I think that when you compare apples with oranges, that is the kind of argument that you get. You are here talking about Cambridge Analytica from the perspective of somebody engineering discord between communities, engineering discord which is politically productive to one particular political party, discord between even legislative bodies and citizens at large. There is a huge difference between that and, let's say, for instance, one of the apps that I use today is Gaana. Is that a Times of India app? I use Gaana, and the first thing Gaana says, tell me your location. Does that mean Vineet Jain is spying on me? So anybody who's not technologically literate possibly doesn't understand the difference between somebody using an app and, as a consumer, saying that yes, one of the reasons for me using, let's say, Gaana is that you allow or disallow any part of my interaction. But to say and tantamount it to snooping would be very childish. On the other hand, for Cambridge Analytica to say, we are hired. And why are we hired? We are hired so that we can tell you strategically what discord, what kind of a negative campaign you can run in what community, make them feel so morbid that they choose their electoral candidate, not on the basis of development, but on the basis of the fear that you instill in them. There's a huge difference in that.
Nanalal Kidwai, you think this dividend, demographic dividend that we are talking about, these youngsters, and these youngsters using data analytics, using data products, apps, these are the new target groups of political parties, and do you take Smriti Irani's explanation that they are different from the party that's being alleged to have used a negative campaign?
Well, thank you for bringing me in. I was just beginning to think. Yeah, the only reason I was here to make sure establish that we had 3 women on the dais. But on the demographic dividend and the youth of today, if data, and without getting into the political discourse here, if data can be used to pull youngsters in to recognizing the role they have, to make them politically astute, the reach out, whether it's through social media or analysis of data, so that the reach that happens in ways that they understand and the language that they embrace. And that pulls them into being political citizens and exercising their power of vote. Then we'll have a true demographic dividend. Women voting and young people voting. And because the youngsters establish our future, and women are very critical in that voting exercise, women exercising the vote for themselves, not through influence of husbands and family members. So I would say that that's very critical. And that really brings me to the last economic survey, pink cover, fabulous. $700 billion, 43 lakh crores is the number that the economic survey puts out for India to add to its GDP if men and women can be equal. And it's right there in the next couple of years if we can get it right in terms of the gender gap. And then the important one in terms of representation in parliament. And you've had a wonderful exposure to the articulate and lively Smriti Irani, and you know, who has been a fabulous minister. I can certainly speak for sanitation, where in her role at the Human Resource Ministry, the process she started of ensuring toilets for women and girls in schools and ensuring the quality of toilets, it was path-breaking, and we're still feeling the positive effects of that today, even after she moved. So she brings a tremendous energy to what she does. So why don't we have more of her in parliament?
I don't think Rahul will
Why,
like that.
but why?
That's the question.
Why do we have 12% only representation of women in the Lok Sabha, 10% in the Rajya Sabha? And India, which allowed equal vote for women in our constitution, Switzerland only moved to women's voice in 1980, after us. And yet our representation is worse. We have to do something about this.
The women's reservation bill is gathering dust.
I-
It was passed in Rajya Sabha in 2010.
And I was very much going to come to that point that when we were in parliament in the opposition in Rajya Sabha, though the Congress could not gather that number from their own associates and from their own supporters within the UPA, it is the BJP that actually went forward and supported the Congress to pass it. Also, many people presume that you need reservation only for those who are possibly from rural India, possibly do not have access to education, and hence they do not have an affirmative course of getting an equal footing with men. Ironically, even I became, for the first time, the national secretary of BJP when my male president of the party had reservation brought in for women within the organization. So let it not be misconstrued that if we want reservation, it is only because women feel they are disenfranchised or feel that I'm from, let's say, a poorer strata of society. There are many well-read, professional women who might not get a chance if not for that reservation. But when we're talking about data, there is a lot of negative connotation now with the word data. But you can use technology and leverage it for the greater good, and I'm glad and I'm grateful to Naina ji for her compliments. Our sanitation secretary, Parmeshwaran Iyer, is seated here today. When we did building of toilets in 1 year of over 4 lakh toilets in government schools, it sounded like administrative improbability. We leveraged technology, we used satellite imaging, we ensured that citizens went and checked the toilets because we had data available from schools that ye ban gaya hai toilet. We told citizens we need to recheck on the ground, can you help us? And there was a citizens outreach, they went out, they said this is not functional or this is semi-functional, we corrected that data, we went back in the field and we built it up. We have instances, let's say, we leverage technology, we leveraged the popularity of Twitter and Facebook, and we told people, come and do Shramdan in building toilets. So it's not as if technology always brings discord. Technology, when used productively, can help building societies also. It depends on who and how uses that technology for what end.
Let me come in on communication here. Because if you look at the discourse, and I saw a survey which said 79% of Indians believe women should have more positions of power in government. 79%. So, I mean, that's most of us, right? And yet, it hasn't come to pass. And on the other side, you have a Haryana where, for a convicted rapist, you get 3 years less prison sentence than a cow slaughterer, in where there are 67 cases a day of issues to do with women being hurt in one way or other. So the communication that we can do in terms of sorting through these anomalies, where people want women in power on the one hand, which hasn't come to pass, and on the other, that a convicted rapist is treated with a lighter touch than a cow slaughterer. There's something sadly amiss
disagree
here.
on that one, because though crime against women in terms of data can be looked upon from various age strata, and I think it's extremely inhuman to deliberate on any data as such, we've also had the same state make leaps and bounds progress on female feticide and stopping doctors from actually killing the girl child in the womb. And we've seen the female to male ratio going up in that very same state, where progressively administration ensures. So it is not that we are bereft of challenges. We never have been. What is needed is a government or governance which says that together with society, yes, let us stem certain challenges that we face, female feticide being one of them. And I think ultimately, though, and I was very much there in Parliament when the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Bill was passed, when the POSCO Bill was passed, though the law provides for punishment within a stipulated time period, which is comparatively less, what is happening is the caseload is so heavy that we do not see that pace in our courts of law. So there has to be an overall, I think what is now evident is more and more women are no longer afraid of coming out and speaking about crimes against women, which was not earlier the norm. Many people were afraid. At least, thankfully now, women do not turn away when they want to speak, and neither does society. And I'm really grateful for that change, particularly, that they come out, they speak, they say there will be somebody in the media who will highlight my plight, and there will be people in the country who will stand by me nonetheless.
So Smriti Irani, when somebody like Naresh Agarwal comes into your party and on the party platform actually calls women, and he spoke about Jaya Bachchan being somebody who was given in his own party preference over himself, and which is why he left that party and joined the BJP. From the BJP dais, he said, "Nachne gaane wali." You also come from the world of films and acting. Do you think somebody in the BJP, other than you yourself as a woman and Ms. Sushma Swaraj, should have stood up against such a comment made by
I
him?
think everybody in the BJP stood up. And you're talking to somebody who was called names worse than that on a TV debate 5 years ago. And my case, even till this date, is pending in a Delhi court. I'm fighting that case all alone.
So how
I
can
don't have any reporters coming and asking me after 5 years, "Kya ho raha hai aapke case ka?" Why? Because this is the reason why women shy away from filing a case. They are told कि सालों साल तुम कोर्ट के दरवाजे खटखटाते रहोगे, सालों साल बदनामी होती रहेगी, एक बार बोल दिया तो कोई बात नहीं. So every time you call that particular gentleman on your show, do remember that I'm fighting a case.
We don't call him on our shows, but
Yes,
what
you do.
about Naresh Agarwal? What about Naresh Agarwal? How
I
is
have
he
said
a
my
member
piece.
of the BJP?
I have said my piece. The gentleman that I am referring to, Rahul Gandhi promoted him.
Okay,
So we all have our stories to tell as women. I have plenty of stories to tell. One gentleman belongs to Vadraji's family. So does that make Naresh Agarwal better than him? No. I have said so publicly, irrespective of anybody's political ideology. You cannot settle political scores by hitting a woman at her modesty and by calling her names, मर्दानगी उसमें नहीं है.
So is this issue on gender issue something that is discussed within your party, and is the
My party had a male president giving women reservation within the organization. And on the other hand, we had a female president of a party which never did that. So is it a problem only with men? That is another issue. Why do we presume that the men are so phobic about wanting women to be equals? Every time we do this to ourselves, we presume that only women will fight those battles. Find me a single man who will say no today in this audience to fight that battle. They will stand for equality. They will stand for justice. And I think the greatest injustice we do is when we say, men won't support this. Why not? But they are fathers, they are brothers, they are sons.
But there is an issue with the way society views women in the country. And again, the same survey I was looking at suggested that 69% of men surveyed believe that women in India should be good mothers and good wives. Luckily, the question was not asked, should they be at work as well? And hopefully, they aren't saying they shouldn't be working. But that statistic vis-a-vis Europe, even Europe like in Spain, which is very family-oriented, the same statistic was 19%. In Britain, 22%. So what we have, unfortunately, through media, through depiction, through society, a role where women belong, good wives, good mothers.
No, I disagree.
And I just hope it's not, I'm just telling you a survey. I didn't do the
I
survey.
I tell you why
These are
I
men of
disagree on
India
that.
polled who are
I
giving
tell you why I
this
disagree on that,
indication.
Naina ji. There are many women who are educated, professionally qualified to have a career. They choose not to have a career, they choose to raise a child. Does that mean if she chooses to be a good wife and a good mother, she's less than me?
No, so the
There are
question-
many men who say, yes, I want a good life partner. Is that something wrong? I want a good husband and
if
I
it's
want
the
my
woman's
guy
choice.
to be a good father to
But
his children.
Smriti, if it is the woman's choice, the issue here is,
No, the question
the
is can we
choice-
do the survey 50-50, ask the men that question, but then ask the women also, do you want a bad husband and you don't want a bad father for your children? No one will say, yes, I want a bad father for my children.
Yeah.
So it's like apples and oranges again. Ask people about productivity when it comes to women. Why does banking have so many women leaders? Because their competence matters. Why do we have the 9 o'clock show anchored by a woman?
Yeah. But it didn't start
Whereas the
that
company
way.
owner is a man?
It didn't start that way. Something had
So,
to change.
No, I think that it's changing and we need to recognize that.
it's changing, and we've had women
And I have a
ministers-
flight of Indigo, they might beat me on the tarmac, so let me go now.
Okay, Smriti, before you go, Smriti Irani, before you go, you're also a mother, as you said, of 2 children, one in class 10 and one in class 12.
Thank you for exposing my children's education, yes.
And there, nobody in your government is answering one question. There are CBSE paper leaks. That's the burning story on every channel today. How could you put up with paper leaks, CBSE paper leaks, and re-examinations if it happened to your children?
I have a child in 10th and 12th, my daughter in the 10th and my son in the 12th. I would be abusing their privacy by speaking publicly about what they feel and how they go about their lives. I have been the HRD minister of this country and I'm very much a part of this government. The current HRD minister has spoken about it. There is an investigation which is underway. As a parent, I'm sure the day I step down as a minister, I can free for all have a conversation. But I will only say this, that my best wishes and my prayers and my blessings with all the children, that includes me, I hope, and my kids. And I'm sure they'll come out of this crisis.
And on Cambridge Analytica, would there be an investigation less than just calling for Zuckerberg rhetorically, or an FIR to be registered if you really feel there needs to be an
I think in our
investigation?
conversation you were looking for headlines and I've given you enough. But I will only say
One more
this
won't
as-
hurt times
as-
now.
Which just goes to show that Navika is the ultimate headline hunter. But let me say this, that as the INB minister, I'm aware that there is a policy in broadcasting for television There is a policy for the print media, and it's time that India had a policy for digital broadcasting and digital news. And very soon, I shall be making some announcements with regards to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Naina Lal Kidwai and Smriti Irani, for this wonderful session. Thank you very much for being as candid as you did.